Over the course of the history of IndyCar, there has been 5 races in Canada, so I decided I wanted to try to race them all on a simulator to get a good sense of my great country. Before we get started, a quick note. If you didn't know, at one point IndyCar split into 2, kart and then IRL. I'm not going to get into the history of this much. There is plenty of videos that do a better job than I would. I'll link them down below. But for the purposes of this video, I did tracks from both these series in Canada, and I just used the term IndyCar kind of interchangeably for the two. So these are the racing sims I used in this video. Most of the tracks are from mods, which I've linked down below to give credit to the creator. But you guys can go and try these tracks out yourself. The first IndyCar race was in 1984 over here at the Sanair Super Speedway. This race happened because the brewery Molson, which you'll hear a lot about this video, wanted a Canadian IndyCar race and wanted to buy their home base in Montreal. The Sanair Super Speedway is still open today as a motorsports park, but hasn't had an international racing event since about 1987. This track is also a bit infamous because famous IndyCar racer Rick Myers got injured in practice here. IndyCar only raced in Sanair 3 years, in 1984, 1985, and 1986. It was a short tri-oval. This course was also really hard to find on a simulator, one of the hardest to find. So this is the oldest course, so therefore I have to use the oldest game. So for those of you who don't know, this is NASCAR 2003, which is the same team, different company that eventually went on to make iRacing. So a lot of the iRacing's original physics engine actually come from this game. And then like NASCAR 2003 was kind of the last one they made before going bankrupt. And now NASCAR 2003 is, or NR 2003 is abandonware, so you can download it for free, and it has a very vibrant mod community still. It's kind of like Richard Burton's Racing in the sense of it's an old game that's still a lot of people consider the best at what it does. I did find this also in the original R Factor had a Sanair course, I'm pretty sure, but I kind of wanted to do it in NR 2003, but these steering controls are really garbage. Like I oversteer every one. Like I have to, like, you see this? Like barely input. If you couldn't tell, this game is so finicky and kind of shitty at things, but a lot of people, for free, it's one of the better sims. And then like for Canadians, it actually has a mod for the NASCAR, what used to be Pinty's, but now is NASCAR Canada series with all the tracks. So like if you live in a place with where NASCAR Pinty's races, your track will probably have a mod in this game, which is really cool. And it's just cool to see a game have the NASCAR Canada series just to promote motorsports in Canada. Is cool. Yeah, I didn't fix it too much, but I did fix it a little bit. But yeah, so this, fuck me. But here it is. So this is obviously the same courses I just was at, but this is in R Factor 1 because in our 2003 I wasn't getting the control super right. Controls aren't super right in here. I have to actually. So one thing I hate about sim racing as a hobby is like unless you stick to one game, I feel like you're constantly like farting about with stuff, like whether it be control inputs if you get it to feel right, or if you're like wanting to get into mods. Like the computer itself, I've had to upgrade hard drives. I feel like it's been a lot of, and then like the physical sim myself, since I built it, I've had to do modifications. Like I feel like I'm constantly tinkering and keeping me out of the race chair, which is a little bit of a shame. And I'm putting 25-second laps here, which is in this tri-oval. I've never really raced a tri-oval before, but yeah, no, this course is pretty solid. Like I said, it was the first IndyCar race in Canada. It was the first IndyCar course in Canada, but I see why they moved it. But like this track's still here, but it hasn't had a big event in forever, it seems. Like, it has local events, and there's actually like quite a bit on the complex. Like there's an RC race course, a drag strip. I think there was a road course, but since it's been gone, I could remember that. The next, IndyCar went to Toronto in 1986, and this is interesting because it is the only IndyCar race in Canada in the current season. Like Sanair, Molson originally owned this race, so it's the Molson Indy Toronto. It's since been sold, so now it's the Honda Indy Toronto, but that's the sponsorship. Honda doesn't actually own it. This race happens in a temporary street circuit on the fairgrounds. It's right beside a stadium which the Toronto Football Club and the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL play at. What I find most interesting about the Toronto race is John F. Bassett, who owned the Toronto Toros, who moved to Birmingham, of the World Hockey Association, and he also owned a team in the USFL and the World Football League, who famously tried to bring a World Football League team to Canada, to Toronto. And then Elliott Trudeau stepped in with the Canadian Football Act, preventing four-down football in Canada, basically. He, at one point, tried to start a race in Toronto and was hit with immense backlash, and no one wanted it there. But then, years later, it happened without him. There's a really good book about John F. Bassett that goes through this. I recommend reading if you're into Canadian sports. I've been trying to actually go to this race for quite a while now. Like 3 years in a row I've been like meaning to go, and then just had something come up so I couldn't. So I like Toronto. I used to go to school like 20 minutes. I used to go to school like an hour from Toronto, so I quite like the area. But I haven't been able to go here and see it in person, so I can't really give you a review or anything of it. The track itself, I find, is a very street track. Like, yeah, AI is having trouble here. It's very tight, very 90-degree turns. It's kind of like the type of track that like F1 seems to be getting away from, but IndyCar seems to be going towards. What I find interesting is whoever did this mod actually put like Canadian ads on, and probably the ads that were actually on the thing. This is where the Toronto Football Club, like their MLS team, plays, and then also their American or Canadian football team, the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL, play as well. So I've seen football games and soccer games in that stadium, or a football game and a soccer game. Or I guess 2 football games if you're European. Definitely not the biggest racing event in Canada. Like the Montreal Grand Prix seems to be a bigger deal, at least in the casual racing community. IndyCar is not super big in Canada, which is a bit of a shame because there's a lot of Canadians in it, or there has been a lot of Canadians in it. I think part of the issue is we don't have the races, so this being the only race is kind of a problem for IndyCar. I feel like if they really want to do international expansion, like they should do a race in Mexico and a second race here in Canada. Getting used to that turn now. Also, I don't know why I have auto shifting on, so like it's making it a lot easier. But anyways, that was a bad crash. I'm not good at driving and talking apparently. But yeah, so it I think for the future of IndyCar in Canada, we should get our own, because like right now, a lot of the Canadians in IndyCar are failed F1 drivers who can't come back to North America and decide to try it there. And like even the ones with success, like obviously Jacques Villeneuve left IndyCar to go to F1. Paul Tracy almost left IndyCar to go to F1. Like there's this kind of sense of you don't need to be there to have success. There's this kind of thought of like in Canada of like we're just so behind in racing, you have to leave for success. Europe's kind of number 1, and then American Open Wheel's kind of number 2 for that. But it'll be interesting to see if that changes ever. The city is also really interesting study and not in how sim racing, with a vibrant mob community, you can really go on different tracks and people can learn different places. iRacing's pretty good about, they do tracks that no longer actually exist, so you kind of preserve them. You preserve them in history even if they're not actually still technically exist, but kind of on rails. So it's kind of cool that, you know, the tracks that I did today, they don't actually exist. I can download and try and play on various sims. Like, it obviously, as you saw, was a bit of a hassle and sucked, but it's cool to be able to preserve these tracks that might never exist again. So the next race in Canada was in British Columbia. It was there from 1990 to 2004. It was tried to be revived in 2022 with a Formula E race at the same course, which that fell through due to the organizer not being prepared and the city having to pull the plug. So this race was pretty controversial due to the noise and the sound and everything. So Mark Douglas in 2002 wrote a good book called Indy Dreams and Urban Nightmares, Speed Merchants, Spectacular and Struggling Over Public Spaces in the World-Class City, which is about the race and the fall of it. Interestingly enough, the brewery Molson also sponsored this race and was also a big part of it coming there. So also with the track, it was a temporary street circuit, which you can't do anymore because of the construction built for the 2010 Vancouver Olympics. So it was supposed to end in 2008 to start the construction of the Olympics, but it ended 2 years early due to public controversy. Here I'm in R Factor 1 at Vancouver BC Stadium. One thing I didn't get into in the preamble, okay, I'm so lost. There we go. One thing I didn't get into in the preamble is unfortunately 2 people actually passed away on this course. 2 marshals. They were using effectively. Do I have a yellow flag? They were used. This game's so weird. The steering on this game is so odd. But yeah, 2 marshals passed away unfortunately. So that's part of the reason I never returned, and obviously it's very sad that that's the case. And R Factor for such an old game is good looking. It's definitely a very urban course with all the bridges and stuff. And this game doesn't understand the subtleties of the inputs well. It's hard to half press. I guess it's just like the old game. Fuck. I one time pick up a little bit of speed. Okay, here. So that's pit lane. So I have done a lap. Oh, there's I made me put a air balloon. This is the 1998 layout too. So I'm not sure how it's changed, but it would have been one of the earlier races there, obviously. I know throughout its time, the layout did change a couple times, but I'm not totally sure how. Oh, and then there's the Science World, or is there Science Center? They built it for Expo, and then now it's a Science Building. Man, this layout is rather confusing to me, gotta say. Okay, now I'm on the front screen, okay. Wilson. It's funny that even in the game, you still see Wilson everywhere. Okay. I think this is yeah. So apparently some of this, I don't know what exactly, has been redeveloped for the Olympic Village for the 2010 Olympics when they were in Vancouver, so it's an interesting fun fact that this race is, the reason it doesn't happen is because of the Olympics. This is the first time I've actually ever really done laps on R Factor 1. I own R Factor 2, but not R Factor 1, so it's kind of new to me. Obviously the steering input kind of sucks, like look how much I'm turning for not that much wheel to spin. But yeah, unfortunately with this course, 2 marshals passed away, and it was actually broadcasted live on screen. And obviously a horrible thing, and I'll put the names of the people here. I unfortunately don't remember them off the top of my head, but I think they deserve the respect of being named. No, interesting. So this, like, obviously Vancouver's west of, like, the west part of Canada. So Vancouver hasn't talked about getting this race back, but another Western Canadian city, Calgary, talked about getting one for a while, but on their Stampede grounds, because the Calgary Stampede is a really big event that happens once a year. But those kind of got a 2-minute lap, Jesus. Those plants kind of got shut down because of COVID, and then haven't re-emerged apparently. Like the interest for Western Canadian Indy race seems to have kind of died, which is unfortunate. I feel like Indy Car has not done a great job of capitalizing on the Drive to Survive success. Like, obviously Indy Car really doesn't want to be associated with F1 in a lot of ways. Like, they're kind of that please like my race series and always say how they're better than F1. But really, I think they should be pushing the narrative of F1 races are too expensive and too far, go to IndyCar race. And like IndyCar, obviously in the past, like with the races in Canada and internationally, like Japan and Brazil has tried to branch out, but they've just kind of seemingly have given up on that, which is kind of unfortunate because it is a good series. I do like the mix of oval and street courses. And the physics in this game are so wild. I'll do one more lap and then we can see it. So yeah, Molson FedEx, Molson Canadian. We used to have these ads that like would go like I am Canadian, and they'd like list things that are like kind of Canadian stereotypes, and then say I am Canadian. And as like a youth, those were like the coolest ads ever. But so, and then that's where the BC Lions play. So this video features 2 CFL stadiums. The next circuit that IndyCar raced at was in Edmonton, which this is the closest race to myself. They were there from 2005 to 2012, and it took place on their old city airport, which is now demolished. So the track was laid out on the runway. Now this race was not sponsored by Molson. It was actually sponsored by the West Edmonton Mall initially, and then it was sponsored by local car dealerships. This race stopped in 2012 due to poor attendance and due to poor local support from companies. For those of you that don't know, Edmonton's a interesting city when it comes to sports because they have the Edmonton Oilers, who are like a big NHL team. And then they have teams, and then they have the Edmonton Elk, who used to be the Edmonton Eskimos, who they were big but have really struggled for attendance lately. And then they have a series of like really minor league teams. Like they had a CP Canadian Premier Soccer League team that's folded. They've had a series of baseball teams. They currently have one in a collegiate league. They have a professional basketball league in the CEBL. So it's a really interesting city when it comes to sports. So it's really interesting that they had a race. I'm back in Astra Corsa. Actually, this might be the first Astra Corsa game. This mod actually looks pretty good, and I found it. I found one for R Factor 1 as well. But I decided Astra Corsa was a better game to do. Oh, fuck. Did not know that was a turn. So this is at their old airport that no longer exists. But, race2edmonton.com. Curious if that's URL still works. I have to try that. But this is their old airport. As mentioned before, this would have been the closest actual Grand Prix to me. Oh, Boston Pizza. Fun fact, Boston Pizza is owned by the guy from the Canadian version, or from Canadian Dragons Den, and his son's the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs now. But, man, I'm shifting poorly. This is a weird course. It's really open. Like, what an open... You could do like 55 abreast here. Oh, then there's a chicane that I just cut. But, yeah, this would have been the closest to me. I actually go to Edmonton fairly regularly, but never been to this airport. Well, it doesn't exist anymore, but I missed another turn. Does this not have a reverse? Yeah. I don't really know this car well. probably not the most accurate Indy car to use, but it's open wheel and simple to run, so I figured it'd be the one I'd use on this. But yeah, this mod, this one, Edmonton, I found a couple different games, so I chose this one. Oh, what's Edmonton Mall? Because it's not that old of a, like, didn't happen that long ago, so I was kind of surprised there's not more information and talk of it. Like, in Edmonton, I know a lot of people from it, no one really talks about this race, and like, I was there for the rugby sevens during 2021. They did a round in Edmonton just because of COVID, I guess. And like, I saw in the bathroom a sticker for this race in Commonwealth Stadium, which is like a very old stadium, but it's where the Edmonton Elk of the CFL play now. And like, it was just kind of jarring that like to see the sticker of an event that's no longer there, and it just seems like it's kind of a mostly forgotten about event. And like, Edmonton's a very sports city in a lot of ways. Like, they used to call themselves the City of Champions because in the 80s, with Wayne Gretzky, the Edmonton Oilers had their 5 Stanley Cup run. Well, obviously Gretzky only 4 of those. And then the Edmonton Eskimos at the time, now the Elk, also won a lot of championships. And they had a professional soccer team at the time, and affiliated professional baseball team. And like, they had a lot going on, and then now like they have a professional basketball team and stuff, but events like this, they seem to be losing, even though like they have the World Juniors. Like, it's a lot of the sports that aren't hockey have seemed to move out of Edmonton, and it's kind of more of a hockey only sports city, which is a little unfortunate. Jesus Christ, if I can make that turn ever, that'd be nice. I see why this race didn't really happen. It's kind of a little bit of a boring race. Bit of a boring track. It's just very, very flat, very open, very wide. Skyline actually kind of looks like that, so it's pretty accurate. It's kind of like the track would be north of their downtown, if you know your way around Edmonton, but yeah, it is a very beautiful city in the summer, but obviously a very cold city. This game is so light, or this car's so tanky. If I find the West Edmonton Mall advertising here, this was the West Edmonton Grand Prix, but the West Edmonton Mall is a little bit of a time capsule of a bygone era. So, like, if you ever go to Edmonton, don't plan to spend more than like half a day, maybe a day at the West Edmonton Mall. There's things, there's restaurants, there's like mini golf and stuff like that, go-karts. But like, yeah, it's about a half a day place. A lot of chains, a lot of like stores you see anywhere now. So the next circuit, you should know, it's in Montreal. It's the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. It's where the Canadian Grand Prix has happened since 1978. Indy Car was there from 2002 to 2008 at this circuit. The exact same circuit as F1. So the circuit is a temporary road circuit. It's kind of on an island, which is a park with bike trails, so you can bike along the track during non-race periods. It's in the contract that there can be 2 races there a year, but there's only been one. The F1 has been since 1978. Then, as I mentioned, the Indy Car for a couple of years. There's also been a NASCAR race that's happened there. So there has been other races there. Surprisingly enough, this race was also sponsored by Molson. I should also note, in 2017, Montreal also had a Formula E race, which did not happen at the circuit, but happened on a temporary street circuit downtown. But that only happened for 1 year, and was a very poorly attended event. I quite like Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. I think it's one of the better circuits. So obviously this circuit also does the F1, so it's interesting. You can watch F1 and IndyCar on it and kind of compare the two, which I assume they've both been on different circuits as well. In its contract, it can only be an it can only be a track 2 weekends a year, which it's only been 1 weekend a year since Formula E left. So it's theoretically they can add. I've never driven this car before, but it's kind of supposed to be the Indy Car, I think. So anyway, so it's only 1 race a year in sorry, 2 weekends a year, but they've only used for one weekend lately. So there's speculation that they can add it back to either the Indy Car or another series. I think it'd be a bit too small for WEC, but it'd be interesting to see another one because there's kind of a shortage of racing series in Canada. Like we have the F1, one F1 race, one IndyCar race, and that's kind of it. Like Vancouver's supposed to get a Formula E race, which I even bought tickets for. I probably talked about on the Vancouver track, but it was cancelled. So it kind of, the racing's very focused in Canada to Quebec and Ontario, more so Quebec than Ontario even. I would say this is probably my favorite track in Canada. I've never raced in person, but of the, that was a terrible turn. Of the ones that Canada and Motorsport are kind of the premier ones. I was like on the grass there, which sucks. I actually went to the F1 race here 2 years ago, 2023, and I sat on, I guess they're not even on here, the grandstands kind of up here. Yeah, like kind of right across from these, like right there. Which, I don't know, I bought those seats because they're the only ones that weren't sold out. When I tried, like 4 minutes after tickets went on sale, I wouldn't really suggest them because you're basically just seeing it straight away. It's nice, you can see a bit of that loop, which is cool, but I much would have rather sat on the other side of the loop. But I did see one of the Ferraris in the support races, like a Ferrari road car in the support race crash right in front of me, so that was interesting. But yeah, Montreal or the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal is a very good event. I suggest going to it. Been to 2 IndyCar or F1 races here and in Austin, and the one in Montreal was way better organized than the one in Austin, I found. The weather was also, in Austin, I almost died because of the heat. It was so hot. Versus in Montreal, it was kind of rainy. So, like, I got wet the one day, but, like, it's still, I don't know, I still liked it. I found too, like, the track is, like, it's on the subway line, because it's on an island right outside town, so you can hop on and off. Like, the line to leave was, like, an hour and a half. Like, it was, to leave took a while, but to come wasn't too bad. So, like, it was easier to come and go from the track and, like, spend your evenings in Montreal having fun with other F1 people. This is where I would sit if I was to sit and go again, or I'd try to sit there. Anyway, so, like, it was easier to come and go from the track versus Austin. The track is so far away, and the traffic sucks out there because it's, like, a single-lane highway that even the shuttles take forever. So I found, like, in Austin, I'd wake up, go to the track, go to the shuttle to go to the track, end up at the track, spend the whole day at the track, take the shuttle back, it'd be late, I'd go to my Airbnb and sleep. Versus in Montreal, it was like, I'd leave the track, go for dinner, I met some people at my hostel, so we'd go out drinking together. They have, like, multiple streets blocked off for, like, F1 and kind of street fair stuff, so it was, like, a fun, like, just a great vibe with everyone there for F1, and, like, people were driving their fancy cars on the streets that weren't blocked off. It was a good vibe, and very fun. In the city versus Austin was kind of like the track, like, they had the concerts late at night that were kind of lame, and then it's like, after the concert, you'd just be dead. What I want to do is, I went to Le Mans, as well, and just, like, in GA, in general admission, GA. What I'd like to do is do a race, either, Le Mans would be the goal, but, like, realistically, it'd be North America. So, like, even, like, the WEC race in Austin or whatever, and do, the camping, so I think that'd be really fun to, like, I think the vibe of the campsites would be really fun. to try out, just because like I think there'd be it'd be an interesting vibe. So I'm starting to actually get this car quite a bit now, so I'm actually putting in pretty good laps here. I mean, not good, but it's putting in respectable laps. I say that and I immediately spin out. But that is the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, which is the one of the few tracks that's still around. The last circuit is also in Quebec. It's Mont-Tremblant. Now this circuit's the second oldest circuit in Canada. It hosted the Canadian Grand Prix in 1968 and 1970, but it hosted IndyCar in 2005. This track, interestingly enough, used to be owned by Lance Stroll's dad, Lawrence Stroll. He owns the Ferrari dealership in Montreal, so this is just my speculation, but I assume he bought the track to help sell Ferraris. He owns a couple other car dealerships as well. So Lawrence Stroll owns the circuit, and on Gary Klett's podcast, Lance Stroll said he learned to drive in the parking lot of this circuit with they set up pylons to make a little go-kart track for him, and that's how he learned to drive. And since it's a rainy area, that's why he knows how to drive in the rain pretty well. So Lawrence Stroll sold the circuit a couple years ago, and since then the new owners have put quite a bit of renovation work into it to make it an FIA Grade 1 track again. So it's eligible for international events again. So like I said, there's the Formula 1 races, there's been IndyCar, there was IMSA and stuff, but there hasn't really been a big race at the circuit since IndyCar, so hopefully these renovations help Mont-Tremblant become a big circuit again. Interestingly enough, this circuit only had the race 1 year, and it lost it because the unification between IRL and Champ Car made it so they had too many races, so this was one of the ones that got cut. So this is Mont-Tremblant, which it's one of the more famous courses in the list today, but I've never actually driven it. It's not really in many games. This is a mod. Jesus Christ. Let's see if I can do some actual driving here. It's a mod, but I've never actually played this one, so I don't really know the course at all. I'm not downshift. I need to use the clutch. Okay, I need a different car. This car sucks. Man, if I had an off there again, even with brakes, I would have screamed. That was not a good chicane by me. This course actually looks really nice and treed in. Looks very... I find with like North American courses, there's usually not a lot of trees around it, unlike European ones, especially the older European ones, are just like literally in a forest, and like even like a Monza, like the interior of Monza is quite a forest. Versus this is I walked up so hard there. I thought that was going to be a way tougher braking zone. Oh, I'm in the pit lane. So actually I've done a lap now. Pretty short lap. Fuck, I'm like way off again. If I could make that turn, I would be Ayrton Senna. I don't know why that turn I'm just so horrible of going off on. It's one of the worst things. There we go. Okay. Starting to learn this course a bit. It's very like hilly and horsey vibe. Did I go the wrong way? Oh my god. Crashing out here. God. Well, I quite like that course, but yeah. So now I'm going to put the track records for every course to see if I can beat them doing the simulations. I'll go west to east. So in Vancouver, the track record is 1 minute and 5:38 by 1 minute 5:38 by Juan Pablo, former F1 driver. In Edmonton, the track record, the track there had a couple setups. I just did the most recent setup. The track record was 1:17.362 by Joseph Newgarden, going out east. The Toronto's record is not listed. I have to look that up. The Sanair Speedway's record, going to Quebec, Sanair speed record was 20 seconds and 0.74. That's bad writing. 0.74 milliseconds. So as mentioned before, Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve has 2 records. The IndyCar one is 1 minute, 20 seconds, and 84 milliseconds by Sebastien Bourdier. And Mont-Tremblant, oh, I didn't put enough stars. Mont-Tremblant is like an hour north of Montreal, so it'd be like here. Realistically, these stars would be like overlapping, but it's a line through Newfoundland and Labrador. Mont-Tremblant's IndyCar record is 1 minute 17.372, also by Sebastien Bourdier. I missed it, but the Toronto Indy course record is 58 seconds and 806 milliseconds in 2002 by Cristiano Do Mata. So that is the track records across Canada. So now these are the laps that I did in the sim, so you can compare the two and see how bad I am at sim racing. So now we know the tracks from my great country. Thanks for watching. I do videos both about sim racing as well as some actual car stuff that I do in this workshop, so please subscribe.